You know, really, if people knew what they were eating, they would throw up.
There are two types of meat in the world today that you need to know about. The first kind is poison, it's toxic, it will damage your health, and it will slowly kill you over a lifetime of consuming it. The second kind is so healthy you can literally thrive in perfect health eating it and nothing else. There's something really interesting going on, and that is the fact that the poor countries in the world generally only have one type of meat available, and it's the healthy kind. Now you look to America, which supposedly has the best healthcare system in the world, and they are among one of the sickest populations, hands down, on the face of this earth. That's because they're eating the wrong kind of meat. One type of meat is a product of nature, the other one is a product of modern civilization. And I'm pretty sure you can guess which one is healthy and which one is not. Now, let's go over the two types of meat available in detail. I'll show you how to get the good stuff and take your health to a whole new level. The types of meat we're going to go over are factory farmed meat, grass-fed, grass-finished meat. Factory farmed meat didn't even exist until after World War II, and yet today it comprises over 95% of the beef raised in the US. Using cows as an example, factory cattle are given large amounts of growth hormones and antibiotics to make them put on weight and grow faster. The majority of the antibiotics produced in the US are given to cattle for this purpose, even if the animal is not sick.
CAFOs are like animal concentration camps. They're crowded, they have thousands and thousands of cattle from all over the country. They're ankle deep in manure waste, and they're routinely fed antibiotics because of the disease spreading in that close population. And they're also fed growth hormones, so they put on weight faster.
The cows are crowded in pens on concrete and mud, away from their natural habitats on grass pastures. Along with the antibiotics and hormones, they are fed genetically modified corn, soybeans, grains, and animal byproducts, all grown with the use of chemical pesticides. None of these items are a cow's natural diet, and not surprisingly, these cows are extremely unhealthy.
I mean, if you're eating grain-fed beef, you're eating a sick animal. You know,
corn-fed.
Yeah, corn-fed
beef.
Corn-fed, yes, absolutely. Grain-fed, right. Yes. It's the last thing, it's not their native, it kills them literally. It burns holes in their stomachs, it destroys their livers.
These animals could not live if it wasn't for daily antibiotics in their food.
Their fat can contain pesticide residues from the feed, and the meat can contain residues of the growth hormones which have an estrogenic effect on the body. The meat also contains antibiotic residues as well, which affect the brain, damage your gut, and the ability to properly digest food.
When they eat grain, they end up with too much starch in their body. And one of the problems with that is that it causes an acidosis. The animal's pH balance gets off. And in that acid state, the body's not healthy. Anybody that's had a holistic approach to having had the diagnosis of cancer will eventually get to the point where some holistic doctor is going to say, you've got to alkalize your body. You've got to quit eating things that make you so acid, because that's the environment that cancer thrives in. So you're eating this toxic cesspool of acidified meat filled with antibiotics. And of course they give them hormones.
All of the evidence that links red meat consumption to heart disease is based on conventional grain-fed meat.
So the problem with factory farm meat, aside from the ecological issues and the cruelty, is that the animals are not allowed to get an adequate source of vitamins in their feed. So they end up being, the fats that they produce are much less healthy and much less nutrient dense than the fats that are produced by animals who are outside, who have access to sunlight and pasture.
I think that we can all agree. I mean, anybody with a beating heart should know that this is just completely, it's just on every level, morally, ethically, I mean, spiritually even. I think we all can agree that factory farming has just got to go.
Grass-fed, grass-finished meat is the type of meat that was eaten for the majority of human evolution. Our evolutionary period began during the Paleolithic era, which began 2.5 million years ago, all the way up until just 10,000 years ago with the advent of agriculture, when, as a culture, we exchanged meat for wheat. In case you haven't guessed yet, the natural diet of cattle and other ruminants is grass. Grass is the healthiest plant on the earth, and when cows are allowed to happily graze on pasture, they eat it all day long.
If you take a cow and you put them out on pasture, then they're going to be grazing on pasture. They're going to be eating, lots of fresh grass and lots of fresh plants, and they'll be accumulating, these vitamins, and they'll be putting it in their milk and in their bodies. And it's the same thing with chickens. If you have a chicken egg that's from a factory farm, then it's going to be a very pale, anemic color. Whereas if you have hens out on pasture, then the eggs they lay are this dark apricot color in the yolk, and they're just chock full of different vitamins that they've been eating.
The ideal would be a wild egg. That's the ideal. Now, most of us don't have access to wild eggs, so the next step is, what's the most natural situation I can find? It's so much better to have eggs from birds that are actually outside eating insects. When you get low-quality eggs, what you're going to find is that the inside, the yolk, is going to be more of a pale yellow. If somebody's pasturing their birds, they're going to have these dark golden yolks, and that's when you know you've got quality. If you crack it open, it's like a gold coin. Another indicator is if the shell cracks very easily. In other words, if the shell is low integrity and it's weak, you know you're not getting a particularly good egg. When you've got a shell, you got to bang that thing to crack it open. You know you've got a good, strong, high-quality egg. So I recommend you find somebody who does pasturing and a minimal that they're organic and free-range.
When these animals are roaming around eating this, they'll end up with every nutrient required for optimal function. And when you eat grass-fed meats, your body just transfers that straight across. It's the fastest way for a body to take on the perfect nutrient profile, and that's to get it from another animal that has a perfect food source.
A cow that's raised on grass, and when you think of grass, you think of a golf course or a lawn, but it's mixed grasses, like clovers and fescues and, all kinds of nutritious grasses. That's an animal that's eating what it was designed by nature to eat. And their meat has enormous health benefits. It's got a good balance of omega-3s and omega-6s naturally from sunlight and grass. It has high levels of conjugated linoleic acid. It's good for you. It's a health benefit.
A lot of people aren't aware of the fact that a piece of grass-fed meat has as much omega-3s in it as a piece of wild-caught salmon. As Nora Gedgaudas writes in her book Primal Body, Primal Mind, omega-3 is the single most efficient nutrient in the modern human. We also have anthropological evidence that the human brain has literally shrunken almost 10% in size since agriculture began less than 10,000 years ago. One of the reasons for the brain shrinkage is likely the lack of omega-3 fats. What's important to understand about omega-3s is that humans must have about a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-3s to omega-6s to be healthy. Grain-fed beef is totally unbalanced and has an excess of omega-6 fatty acids. Done properly, grass-fed beef not only tastes better, but it is nutritionally light years ahead of the other two types of meat. Grass-fed beef also shrinks much less in cooking because it's not full of water, which means you have a lot more to eat once the meat has been cooked.
If the American people wanted strictly grass-fed beef, we would produce grass-fed beef for them.
Eating only meat that is grass-fed is one of the best ways to support more humane treatment of animals.
It's a really important issue because if everybody bought good meat instead of industrial meat, everything would change. That is to say, there would be more small family farms that are diversified. There would be more preserved rural landscape. There would be no toxic waste lakes in the Gulf of Mexico of manure and pesticides. I mean, it would just change everything. And one of the things that I hope is that people will really recognize that every time they make a purchase, they're voting. And if we all vote for grass-fed and pastured meat, the whole infrastructure is going to change very rapidly.
We vote with our dollars every day when we eat, and we eat at least, on average 3 times a day. So this issue transcends politics. It transcends religion or spiritual beliefs because we're all equal in the fact that we got to eat every day.
If you buy meat directly from the farmer in quarter or half or whole animal quantities, you get a single price per pound of hanging weight. So let's say you're buying a quarter of a cow and it's 100 pounds. So that's, let's say, $600, $150 per family. So you can divide it up between 4 families, each paying $150, and you will get enough meat to last you many months. And in that way, you'll be supporting a farmer, you'll be getting the best quality meat anybody could eat, and it will be affordable. I think eatwild.com is just wonderful because you can click on any state in the United States or any province in Canada, and you can scroll down and see farmer after farmer who is raising his animals correctly and is happy to sell directly to you.